Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and along with my fellow Husky Harry Huggable Homos, we review films either current or classic, all with a lovable bear twist, of course. We've been out of the game for a couple weeks while we've been traveling and had a bunch of stuff going on, but we are back and ready to rock with our review of Disney's new live action version of The Little Mermaid. Did this one sink or swim? We'll find out what we thought, but we'd love to hear what you think too. So make sure to jump into the live chat. If you are listening live, hello and welcome. Or if you're listening on digital tape delay through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or however you consume your podcast, jump into the comment section on Twitter or Facebook. Let us know what you thought of The Little Mermaid. All of that said, let me introduce you to those aforementioned co-hosts. Jim Pugliafico is with us here on the show. Hey, sweetheart, how's it going?
Hey, going okay. It's good to be back here for sure after uh, better than 2 weeks of a break that we had. We're gonna dive into this movie pretty soon, and I can't wait to talk movies with you guys again. We got you know some stuff to catch up on,
That
so I'm glad
we
I'm glad
do.
glad to be here with you guys.
Well, glad that you're here with us, babe. We've also got Will Lindis here with us as well. Hey, Will, how are you doing?
Doing okay. Like you guys mentioned, it's been a couple of weeks away. All three of us had some stuff that we had to take care of out in the real world land, and glad that we took the time to go take care of those things. But also very glad that we're able to reconvene here and talk about a movie, especially since it's a. Let me check my notes here. Oh, a Disney live action remake. I always have such strong opinions on those.
They're
Nobody
your
has
favorite.
no.
Yeah.
Nobody has
They're
strong
my
opinions on
favorite.
those.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
goodness.
just so that we can, I can get this pun out of the way now because there's going to be a lot of them. If you are tuning in live, please use your voice and chime in the comments.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Or you could use body language.
Dun, 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 dun. That joke is
All right.
divine.
Oh, I like what you did there, Will. All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about with regards to The Little Mermaid, but since it has been a hot minute since we've been able to get together and do this, we thought it might be fun to catch up and talk a little bit about a recent experience Jim and I had, which kind of dovetailed, Will, into something that you were telling us about, which is kind of awesome. It might be fun to talk a little bit about. So, Jim, why don't you drive on in and kick us off here?
Yeah.
Ah.
I'll pull the station wagon right in there. Babe. One of the things we got to do in the 2 weeks is we took a trip to New England, I'll just say, kind of around the Boston area. I was in Maine, New Hampshire, and one of the things we were there for primarily was my niece's wedding, which was really lovely. It was a great wedding in a place I had never been to before, in a little town called Mendon, Massachusetts. Really small town, and the funniest thing happened as we were driving to. This is like the last full day before we flew back home. So we're driving to the wedding. We have our suits on. We're all spiffed up for the wedding. And we, about a mile before we hit the wedding venue, we see Mendon Twin. And it's a drive-in. Like it's a twin, like an old-time real drive-in that's been operating there for a while with two screens. So we looked at each other like, oh my God, it's too bad we're going to a wedding. Otherwise if I knew this was here, we definitely would have gone to the drive-in. Well, sure enough, we cooked up a plan that after the wedding reception ended, or was winding down, let's say, we were able. So both screens were playing two movies. Each screen was playing two different movies. So we found out the start times of the films, and the second one started that we wanted to see, which was Fast X, started at like 10:35, which was perfect right after the reception. So we're like, guess what we're doing after the wedding? We're gonna stop in and go to the drive-in, which I hadn't been to the drive-in, and I don't even know how long it was. Probably uh, well over 20, probably well over 25 years since I've been to a drive-in. Because let's face it, there really aren't that many drive-ins. Like I'm talking about like the classic style drive-ins that we see. There aren't really many of those operating anymore. So to get a chance to go to one, a small like independently run one was fantastic. So yeah, we went in and there were some issues with the start time of the movie. The start time of the movie was delayed for an hour because we were in Boston, near Boston, and they wanted to play the end of the Celtics game in between movies for some weird reason on the big screen. So we're sitting there at 10:30 waiting for the movie to start, and the projectionist comes on and says, "Well, since the game is in the third quarter, and we're going to play the rest of the third quarter and the fourth quarter and any overtime, and then we'll start Fast X at 11:45 or whatever it was." Which was a crazy time because we had been out all day. We had an hour and a half drive back to the hotel from where we were anyway. So, needless to say, it was a long night. We didn't get back to the hotel till after 3 a.m. But just the thrill of like sitting in the car watching a movie kind of took me back to those days. Going to the refreshment stand, getting the soda, the popcorn, pizza, whatever. Not great food, but it's drive-in food, so it kind of gets a pass for that. I love that experience. I don't know if I'll ever get another chance to go to the drive-in, so I'm glad we did, babe, together. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy experience. I hadn't been to a drive-in since I was a kid. I think the last thing I saw at a drive-in theater was Pet Cemetery back in, what was that, like
Ooh,
87 or
good drive-in
something?
movie. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. And surreal experience as a kid. I remember getting into the back of my dad's Dodge Ram, whatever the fuck truck it was, and we had blankets and pillows and snacks and all that stuff. And it was pretty awesome. Of course, we didn't come prepared with any of that for this drive-in trip because it was such a random thing finding the drive-in, on the way to a wedding. But it was really cool to see the movie, even if it did start late, on the big screen. Drive-ins have gotten a little more advanced since I was a kid, though. When I was a kid, they had like a speaker on a pole that you could like hang on your window,
Connected
and
with a
have
wire.
yeah, 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 and have like the audio piping into your car, and we always had to like open up the window between the cab and the back of the truck so that we could hear, and you couldn't hear very well. But this was cool. You just tuned your radio to a certain station, and then that's how you got the audio, which was super fucking cool. Um, but I think my favorite part was walking into the snack bar in our suits, all dressed up for the
Yeah, we were
wedding.
still in our suits. We
Oh
had
my
no
God.
we had no change of clothes. We were
Yeah.
just it was going to be the wedding and back for us, and
Yep.
then
Yep.
yeah.
We always dress up when we go to the
Hey,
cinema.
a
Right?
Fast X movie? Yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
baby. We're gonna have
Yeah.
ties on and everything. Yeah.
So we're ordering like greasy pizza and popcorn and big sodas and getting weird looks because, we're all dressed up. But it was a really cool experience. It was super fun.
Yeah.
You guys, Jim, you don't have to think of this as the last time you'll go to a drive-in because we have one with 2 locations here in Austin.
Oh wow.
So next time you come visit, we'll have to maybe make that an excursion. It was actually so this theater here, and I'll name drop them. It's the Blue Starlight Urban Drive-In. They were one of the things that helped me during the pandemic, actually. So there was a long stretch where I just couldn't go to movie theaters because no one could really go to movie theaters. But they opened up one of their locations is downtown. So imagine downtown Austin. You guys have been downtown with like all of the
Oh
tall
yeah.
buildings and stuff like that. There is a spot where you drive up to the top of this parking garage, and just on the very top level, they have a screen set up, and
Oh
then
Oh.
you
wow.
can get like 20 to 30 cars kind of like parked there. They have a concession stand, and you're surrounded on all sides by Austin cityscape. So A friend who I go and watch movies with from time to time invited me to come out and do that, and we hadn't seen each other during pandemic for the last several months. This was still like this is like summer 2020 to give you an idea. So like
Mm.
it's
Mhm.
we're still in the midst of it,
Oh,
and we
yeah.
go see Brandon Cronenberg's Possessor. There, you tune into the little radio station and do all of that, and we could
Yeah.
like wave at each other from the screen.
Yeah.
They have another location that's a little more split out into the woods, and that same friend for his birthday did Invasion of the Astro Monster or Godzilla versus Monster Zero, depending on kind of what
Yeah.
you want to call it, for his birthday there. And so he rented
Oh,
that other
wow.
location screen, and all of us just sort of put kind of in the woods with the screen there with like a bunch of chairs and stuff, and sort of did the walk up part of the drive through, but kind of behind it.
Wow.
It's a very fun experience. It lets you experience movies in a way that is a little different than the traditional format. I'm a sucker for the traditional movie format, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I want to do that again. I'm going to send you guys a link to it, just so you guys can see
Sure.
the picture of what it looks like. In case that's something that you want. It's
I'll add the link. I'll add the link in the show description so people.
yeah, and if anyone
Yeah,
is in Austin, they not only did this cinema great, because of what they're doing, but they also host a regular, I believe it's either weekly or monthly, but like drag queen hosted, like LGBTQ friendly drag at the drive-in, I think is what it's called.
Mm.
So right now it's important to support drag artists as
Right.
well, because of things happening in the world. So another good reason to give them a look up if you happen to be in town.
That's
Cool.
awesome, Will. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
No, I was just to say. I mean, drive-ins, have been since their heyday, like in the '60s or '50s, probably the '60s and early '70s when they were kind of at peak, have seen a steady decline probably since the onset of like the multi-megaplexes in the shopping centers and malls, right? People just didn't go to the drive-in. But when COVID happened, I would imagine that these places that were maybe just barely hanging on got this extra. It was kind of a bonus for them, I would say. Get people back out to the drive-in. I mean, this place when we went, granted it was a Saturday night, and they're playing first-run movies, which is good. But they were packed. Both screens were packed. We were able to get in, luckily,
Yes.
but like I was kind of surprised and kind of my heart was warm to see so many people going to the drive-in.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't realize, I think, that drive-ins were still as around as they are. There's not a ton of them left, but I was actually just talking with a new friend we made out in Boston, very handsome gentleman who told me, Jim,
Made out. Wait, what?
well, that may have happened too, but he was just telling me that there are some other drive-ins, babe, next time we go back, that we should check out. There's one in Topsfield, Massachusetts, which the name of that place makes me laugh.
Yeah.
But so between that and of course the one in Austin and Boston, we definitely have some drive-in options. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Dave Massey in the chat. Hey, handsome Dave, good to see you. He says, "Heck yeah, we saw Die Hard, Will, up on the same rooftop where you saw the
Nice.
Godzilla movie." So very, very cool.
100%. Like I've got to take you guys there. When y'all are here, we're always at Paramount or Stateside or Alma Draft House, South Lamar, and I love those venues for the reasons that y'all are there. But we'll have to find some time when y'all are in Austin that isn't around that one or two specific festivals, so that we can explore some of the other film related items. We'll have to see when that happens.
We keep talking about an Austin trip that's not during South by, because we have a ton of friends down there, and seeing movies 10 hours a day just makes it really hard to meet up with people. So maybe we could come out just on a random weekend sometime and hit the drive-in with you, maybe invite like Nakia and the robot and
a few cars full
make
of
an outing
bears
of
at
it.
the drive-in. How fun would that be?
That would be a
That
blast.
would be perfect. Yes,
That would be a
let's
blast.
Yeah.
travel willing. Let's make
Yeah.
that happen.
Yeah. One more thing. I wanted to mention, since drive-ins are the topic, is I probably didn't get a chance to plug this movie, or maybe I did. I don't remember. But there's a movie out now, fairly recent. It was out in 2022 called Back to the Drive-In. It's a documentary that chronicles like these families that run these independent drive-ins all over the country. And it focuses on maybe 6 or 7 of them and just kind of rotates through. And you can kind of see like what goes into running one of these places and how they feel like they're kind of the last stronghold of that what's the word I'm looking for, custom or thing that people do through the years, that we've held on to. Tradition, that's the word I'm looking for. Wow. But yeah, it's called Back to the Drive-In. You can find it like if you can rent it on, I think, on like Apple TV.
Awesome. Very cool. Last pro tip from Dave about scheduling our bears at the drive-in movie night. He says, just don't come in the summer. There's no AC and there's lots of scary Texas bugs. Yeah, mosquitoes would definitely cheapen the experience for me a little bit. So
you can cheat, and so I did the summer one, and you can leave your car. You can leave your car on idle with air on. You just can't leave it like running. So there's like things that you can do there because you have to because because you're listening to it over the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, like we had a rental car and we're listening on the radio, and I could not. It's one of those new cars that it was a hybrid that, push button to start and all that. Could not figure out how to turn on the radio and have it stay on for longer than like the default 10 minutes that it would shut off. So every 10 minutes I had to like press the button, not start the engine, but turn on the car, turn on the radio, and then turn off the car.
So you missed probably 5 or 6 utterances of the word
family.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So no big deal. Yeah.
No big deal. All right. Hey, look at that. We got our lead in to our movie discussion of the week. Yeah. Well, folks, drive-ins are more ubiquitous than you might think. I was just doing a Google search. They are a dying breed, but there are a bunch of them still left in the United States. So if hearing us talk about our drive-in experience has kicked up the nostalgia machine for you, just do a Google search for drive-ins in your state. Might be a little bit of a drive to get to one, but they are definitely worth the experience. And if you can, wear a 3-piece suit to the drive-in because, why the hell not? It's
pajamas or 3-piece suits. That's what you wear to the drive-in.
Either work. Yeah. All right, fellas. Well, are you ready to change gears, speaking of driving, and get to our movie discussion for this week?
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we are going to be talking about Disney's new live action version of The Little Mermaid, completely spoiler free, for about 10 minutes or so. And then we'll give you fair warning before we open things up to spoilers. So if you haven't yet seen The Little Mermaid and you kind of want to hear what we think, feel free to hang out with us after the jump. We'll gladly give you our thoughts. And of course, again, we'll give you fair warning before we open things up for spoilers. But we'd also love to hear your thoughts too. So if you're in the live chat, drop your thoughts in there. If you're listening, again, on Digital Tape Delay, hit us up on social media. Let us know what you thought. But all of that said, here we go. Our discussion of Disney's live action, The Little Mermaid. All right, we're going to kick this off from a comment from our very own Magic Mike Lovins, who's been on the show many times in the past. One of the hottest gentlemen ever to be on our show, and such a sweetheart. He and his husband both. But I'm gonna ask Will. I'm gonna put you on the spot, friend, because I think you have the best singing voice of the three of us. Could you sing Mike's introduction to our Little Mermaid discussion?
Yeah, and I'm going to try to do it somewhat as a Disney princess. Look at these bears. Aren't they so neat? Wouldn't you say that these homos are sweet?
Oh, my God. That's awesome. Let's
No, that's
just do the
also
whole
Mike.
song.
That's
Let's
also
do the whole
Mike.
song and do a video and break the internet.
Wouldn't you say I'm the bear who has everything? My voice would
I've
break the
got
internet.
jock straps and
Dildos
dildos
aplenty.
Oh
And
my
we
god.
refuse to use cologne.
What?
You want some smelly pits? I got 2 of them.
This is going into very specific kink territory.
I know. Well, what did you expect, Will?
Yeah, that's fair.
Mike has given us some major applause. Mike, thanks so much. And
Uh,
oh man, this is off to a great start already. I love it. Well, Will, I know that you, of all of us, are the biggest fan of all these Disney live action remakes. So I can't even say that with a straight face, but it seems only fitting that you introduce this movie for us. So Mike says, no pig deal.
no
Should have
Oh,
pig
thought of
yeah.
deal. I'm a whore.
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah,
So
we can move on.
we'll break it down for us. What is this live action thing all about? And spoiler free, of course. What are your initial thoughts?
Absolutely. So, The Little Mermaid. This is a remake, a Disney remake of their original animated film, which when I say original, which is based off of the original story from folklore and all of that, but these whole live action films that they've been doing, it's important to contextualize. These aren't necessarily remakes of the source material, they're remakes of their own adaptation of it.
Yeah.
So this is a remake of The Little Mermaid, in which a young mermaid makes a deal with the sea witch to trade her beautiful voice for human legs so she can discover the world above water and impress a prince. Director on this is Rob Marshall. So this is such a mixed bag. I have historically gone on record as saying I don't like these movies as a whole because they don't really, when you're making an adaptation of an adaptation, all you're doing is, to me, just sort of making a weakened version of the brand elements without adding anything kind of new and original to the story. And I also struggle with a lot of the CGI animals in these live action movies because they feel less alive and energetic. Those things are absolutely true here for The Little Mermaid. The animated characters are the worst part of this film. I don't like the way Sebastian looks. Flounder, who looked god awful in the promo materials, is actually the least bad of the animated characters, and even him I was disappointed by. That said, I do want to say there are some things that I think this film does well. I think that Halle Bailey is an absolute treasure in this movie. I think she captures what it means to be a live action Disney princess as well as, if not better than any of the live action Disney princesses that we've seen so far, from the voice, from her mannerisms, the way she is the most animated character in this movie by far. When I think about her face and her reactions, she just lights up and glows. Her singing voice is delightful. I also enjoyed the change in setting for this movie. The change in setting to really kind of base it in sort of like an unnamed, but it looks like it's somewhere in the Caribbean island. Because as they're exploring the island and doing some of the sequences that are on land, they're actually kind of good. I enjoyed the stuff when they get out of CGI land and start doing like real life stuff. And I did like some of the recontextualization and some of the life they added to the kiss the girl scene, which I think is had personality to it once it finally decided to show it, right? So I can't come down too hard on this movie because it did some of what I want these live action adaptations to do, and that it at least gave it a reason to be. The new setting and some of the stuff that spins off of that, I think, does make it accessible to a new audience. I mean, we now have let's face it, we have a black lead who in a Caribbean culture based film, and I think that's going to open this film up to a lot more people than would have had access to it before. But man, I really just hate the template for these things, and I think that template that they used for all of these is always going to be a problem. Plus, man, I hated Aquafina in this. I like Aquafina in a lot of things. I did not like her as Scuttle. I love Daveed Diggs. He's just one of the best things in Hollywood. I really didn't like him in this. And again, I think it becomes from this film didn't veer far enough, I think, with the animated characters, and felt like it had to shoehorn them in, but didn't know how to do it in a way that felt organic to the story that was being sold. So, yeah, I mean, this one's sort of beyond pass or fail. It kind of doesn't matter in some ways. I think there's an audience that is going to get quite a bit out of this, and I applaud that. And I got some things out of it, but at the same time, I don't know that I would. I'm probably not going to track this one down and see it again. So mileage will vary, but again, at least I like the lead performance.
So just to sum up, is this a recommend or a pass?
I don't kind of fall in either category. Yeah, well, it depends on who you are. Like that's what it's a contextual pass or a contextual fail. You know, I think that's, yeah. So it's right in the middle. Yeah, maybe more fail than pass, but I don't know.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Well, Will, thank you for giving us your initial thoughts. Jim, how did this one hit for you?
Yeah, boy. Will, I'm kind of in the same camp with you. Kind of big spoiler there. I'm totally not a fan of most of these live action remakes. Although, here's the weird thing. My favorite of the live action remakes, I think, was maybe their very first one, which I think was Cinderella. Back when, was it Lily James? I forget who it was who played the lead in that, but I really liked that remake, and that's because you know, the film that they were redoing was mostly people, right? And you could dress people up, and you could have a quote unquote live action movie without a lot of animation. This one. And some of the other ones that were made, they're called live action films, but I guarantee you there's probably more animation in this than live action, that's actually shot. Even Halle Bailey, she's at least half CGI'd, in terms of her body and stuff. And I'd really like to know some of this because probably her hair and all that stuff, but yeah, it's just in a weird place for me, these movies. This one wasn't really good. It's got a tough job standing up to probably one of the best and most beloved Disney animated features ever made. And trying to do it live action just really didn't work. And we'll go into some examples of that later. But I thought Halle Bailey did a fine job with the songs and stuff that she had, and her acting is great. I think she's good. I really liked her as Ariel. But I agree with you. Some of the other characters. Look, Aquafina, I love. I didn't hate Scuttle in this movie, and I didn't hate Aquafina until the song. And then I really had a problem, unfortunately. I think it was a double whammy there between, and I don't want to rank on Aquafina's voice. Obviously, she's not someone you think of as a singer, but I think that's okay in a role like that, right? You don't have to have a classical singer that is a great technical singer to sing a role like that. But I had issues with that song, just totally not fitting at all with the rest of the soundtrack and score. For this, in the end, this was wait for it on pay-per-view or not pay-per-view. On streaming. On streaming. Wait for this on streaming. I don't think it's worth going to see in the theaters. That's me. This is a pass in the theaters. If you come across it on streaming, you'll like it. But on the other hand, look, there are people who will love this film. This might be, for some young people, this might
Sure.
be their version of The Little Mermaid, and that's okay.
Oh,
That's totally fine.
yeah.
I just in the realm for me, I don't think this stands up to the classic, nor do I think that it really had a chance to do that.
I will say, let me just revise what I said real quick. I didn't hate Aquafina in this. I think what you said is right. I hated that song, and that song, because it focused on Aquafina so much, sort of overpowered
Yeah.
kind of the rest of it. So I think that's a fair thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Jim, thank you for giving us your thoughts as well. As for me, I think you guys know whenever we've talked about these Disney remakes, I'm usually the one that's like, "Aw, guys, come on, don't be so hard on it." You know,
Yeah,
these
Lion King,
these
you
movies
loved
aren't
it.
for us; they're for a new generation of kids. And you're absolutely right. I did fucking love The Lion King, though. I thought it was really good, but I don't know. A lot of them have been hit or miss. Like Beauty and the Beast, kind of hit, kind of miss. Um, but
Yeah.
going into this one, Jim, you mentioned that this might be like the Little Mermaid for like a new generation, and I feel like I always talk about this same friend from high school, but she's the one I always see posting on Facebook about this stuff. She has tried to get her kids to watch the original animated films so many times, and they just tune out. Something about the animation style, whatever it is, they don't dig it. But these live action slash CGI remakes, whatever you want to call them, they absolutely love. So they own all of them on DVD. Even though they have Disney Plus now and can like replay them all. And she's taken her kids to see The Little Mermaid 3 times already. I think she said they've spent like $150 going to the movies over the course of the
Sure.
last
Yeah.
week.
Sure.
And they just really love it, like the CGI effects, and the mix of like live action and animation really grabs their attention in a way that the original animated ones just don't. So I think it's cool. Yes, it's a cash grab, let's be honest, Disney, that's what you're doing. But the added benefit is a whole new generation of folks are getting into these properties as a result of these remakes. As much as they're not for me, as much as they're not for us, it is doing a good thing. All of that said, I did not like this movie very much, and it's unfortunate. I was looking forward to this one. Of course, we'd seen bits of it in the trailer. We'd gotten to hear Halle Bailey's singing voice, in the trailer. And going into the film, like I was like, well, okay, she's probably going to be a really good Ariel, and I thought she did an okay job. Her singing was good. I think it was missing some of that like childlike innocence though of animated Ariel. It sounded a little like over studio produced, as opposed to like Jodie Benson's rendition of those songs. You try to divorce the original performances out of your mind and take these for what they are, but it's a difficult thing to do. I really struggled with that. So I'm not knocking the movie too much for that. Also, vocal stylings are a lot different these days than they were, I think, when these movies came out, 30, 40 years ago. This this version of like Part of Your World, for instance, was definitely more in line with some like modern pop songs than I think it was the original. And then some of the other songs too, they added a couple of songs here. I don't think that's a spoiler because I mean it was widely
Yeah.
publicized. They added some songs. They're written by Lin Manuel Miranda. I love me some In the Heights, but I I love Moana. But like I think that the new songs are so dissonant compared to the other music in this film, and the originals, that they just stick out like a sore thumb. They feel really out of place. And Jim, to your point, one of those songs is one that Scuttle sings. It's Aquafina. You're absolutely right. She's not meant to be a really great singer, but as much as I love Aquafina, and I have a soft spot in my heart for her, it was just really grating listening to her voice sing that song. I'm sorry, Aquafina. I adore you, but it was, and I think just the Lin-Manuel Miranda plus the singing voice, it just created some not great stuff for me. So there was that. A couple positives that I do want to throw out though, and then we'll jump into our wider discussion. We haven't really talked about two people that I really really loved in this movie. One was Javier Bardem as King Daddy Triton, or Zaddy Triton, as I've heard some people calling him online. Uh, got the magnificent beard. He's got the magic trident. He's got those dark, smoldering bedroom eyes. I really liked him as King Triton. And then I think that Melissa McCarthy did a really good job as Ursula. Would I have preferred a drag queen? Yes, absolutely. I would have. But I think, Disney, they made a good choice with Melissa McCarthy. When I heard her original casting, I was like, fuck, are you kidding me? This is going to be a train wreck. But she actually did pretty good. And I don't know that I've ever heard her sing in anything before. But I kind of like her version of Poor Unfortunate Souls. So the ultimate litmus test for me with these musical movies is what, guys?
Whether you buy the soundtrack or not.
And
Indeed. I did not buy the soundtrack to this movie. I
just
might.
a second. I'm seeing that Disney soundtrack. Brad is not the father.
Look it up on the truth
I
table.
know.
Did buy, didn't buy, good or bad.
Yeah, I might like download this version of Poor Unfortunate Souls on Apple Music, but I definitely won't be downloading anything else or buying the soundtrack itself. So, whether this is a pass or a fail for me, I would say, if you have families with kids, definitely go see this movie. It's a spectacle in theaters, and this new generation might love it a lot. But if you're kind of a diehard fan of the original, there's no way this will ever stand up to that for you. And I think you're setting yourself up for disappointment if you go in hoping that it will. So just kind of be okay with what it is. You know what you're going to get. Yeah, I'd probably wait for Disney Plus on this one unless you have a family you want to take them out to.
Yeah.
What you got to wonder, like in the boardroom when they were drawing this movie up, somebody had a decision to say, let's add some mediocre to shitty songs amongst these classics and see what happens. Like other than the Scuttlebutt song, which I remember because it really was so terrible, I don't even remember the other songs that they added. They just don't. They have nothing.
Yeah,
Is that
one of I don't know if it's it's not spoiler to say Eric gets a song that's about what Eric feels.
Didn't he have a? Did he have a song in the first movie or no?
Eric.
Mm-mm.
So
No.
Eric was a cardboard cutout in the first one. That's the they at least we got a little bit more Eric here. Like I felt like I got the personality of Eric more than in the original. I think that's another plus. But I mean, it's the same thing we see with any of these movies. You always have to add a song because you want it to be eligible for original song at the Oscars. That's just the way that all of these work. In this case, I think that and that's the thing with Lin-Manuel Miranda. I love his work when he's able to sort of like what is it, like a Wounded Tomb, a film, right? Basically like kind of craft the entire language of it. You mentioned In the Heights, Encanto is amongst my favorite Disney movies, right?
Sure.
So, but his style doesn't work when it's like injected into something like the Howard Ashman style, right? Like that's a contrast. So I get why they would do it. It's like we need to add an original song. Let's get Lynn.
Let's go to our guy.
Scuttle doesn't have a lot to do in the second act. Maybe we give Awkwafina, who we paid X number of dollars, to show up in this movie a little bit more to do. You can see how all of those pieces fit on the whiteboard, but unfortunately that's the problem with these movies. They are whiteboarded movies. They don't feel like they're made with like, a specific spark. Not taking anything away from the artists who work on these films. I'm sure everyone that works on these does care about what they're putting, but the final product doesn't always feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me the standouts musically were Will, you mentioned it earlier. Kiss the Girl I thought was really well done here, for a live action remake. And I also thought that not Under the Sea and not Part of Your World, but the Ursula song
Yeah. Poor
Yeah.
unfortunate souls.
was Poor Unfortunate Souls was
Oh,
done pretty well here.
unfortunate souls! Oh my god, I do want to.
Yeah.
I'm going to be looking up a bunch of drag performances of that song. But that not only came. There've been several drag artists who've been doing it for years, and there'll be several doing it afterwards as well. So I'm excited about that showing up on like my YouTube and my TikTok over the next few months.
All right, I gotta ask you guys a
Yeah.
question without looking or cheating. Which I've already cheated. How much longer do you? This movie is longer than the original. How much longer do you think this movie is from the original?
Full
Half an
hour.
hour?
Will's closest. It was 52 minutes, almost a full hour longer.
Really?
Wi-
Wow.
Yeah, the original was like an hour and 23 minutes. This is 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Interesting.
And it's supposed to be appealing to young kids. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
great comment here from Mike Lovins that just on the drag part of it. Nina West played her in a local production in Columbus. That's for Ursula. Yeah, there are some, and I hate to only pull from like the drag race side of drag because
The
there's a lot of
stable.
amazing local performers across the country, across the world doing it. But both Nina West and Ginger Minge have done fantastic
Hmm.
Ursulas in as part of their acts and should be looked up and checked out. They're amazing artists.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Well, fellas, I think we've reached that point where we leave the spoiler free shallows and head into the spoilery depths.
The deep end, the depths.
Y'all good to jump into spoilers for this one?
I am.
Yes.
Let's get wet.
Insert pun here.
All right, spoilers
Just did.
for The Little Mermaid are officially fair game, but I'm going to ramble on for a few extra moments to give you time to exit out of the show if you're listening live. No plugs this week because we kind of plug drive-ins at the beginning, or if you're listening through digital tape delay, you can go ahead and pause. Either way, you can come back, listen to the spoiler section after you've seen the film. Unless you don't fucking care about spoilers, in which case, stay right the fuck here.
And spoilers for The Little Mermaid. I mean,
Well,
I guess this version of The Little Mermaid.
yeah,
right?
yeah, because they did add some new things, and I'm sure we may talk about some of that. So, spoilers are happening. If you're still here, it's because you choose to be. All the blame is on you, not on us. Just FYI. Hope we see eye to eye. But where do you fellas want to start?
I don't know if it's necessarily spoiler related, but I'd like to play a little bit more in the Ursula space still. I know we were talking about that before, and Melissa McCarthy. I'm with you on one thing you mentioned, Brad, in that, or actually everything that you mentioned, Brad, because I also, if I had my druthers, I wish we had a drag performer here, specifically because I think that not only is the character based off of Divine, but also I think that would be a pretty important show of representation, specifically right now. I'm with you when I saw Melissa McCarthy, who I enjoy in things. She can be hit or miss for me, but when she hits, I think she hits well. What I liked a lot about her performance here, though, is she didn't play it like Melissa McCarthy. She played this like a drag queen. She played camp.
Yes.
And she let all of that just camp and just over the topness ooze through everything that she said. And again, it's part of the thing that I enjoyed. When I said I liked the human parts of this movie, I mean the parts where we can actually see the actors' faces, and that includes Melissa McCarthy.
Yes.
Halle Bailey, Javier Bardem, the actor that played the prince, Jonah Howard King. Yeah,
Yep.
you know what? I thought
Yep.
all of them did a good job. And Melissa McCarthy here, it goes back to the same thing I mentioned about Halle Bailey up front. She is more animated than the animated characters in this movie.
Yep. Yep.
One criticism I'll have of this film, and this is actually down in the super personal taste perspective. I feel like you could have cut Flotsam and Jetsam out of this movie for the way that they were shown. Like they didn't really have a lot to do, and she didn't interact with them much, except for when she had to because of plot. And it really felt like those two characters weren't there to service the character. They were there to service. They were in the original animated movie, therefore they have to be here. So, I wish they had done another pass on them and had her playing and interacting with them a little bit more, because I would have loved to have seen her just really camp it up around those two eels even more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Will. One thing that there are a few weird things about this movie that kind of pulled me out of the film, besides the scuttlebutt song, which threw me right out of the film. There's a couple of choices that they made. There's a scene early on where Flounder and Sebastian are talking, I think, to Ariel, and Scuttle is there. And right in front of Flounder, who's a fish, right, who happens to be, he just grabs a fish right next to Flounder and eats it. Like, it's weird. Like, why isn't Flounder afraid? Like, only talking fish are exempt from being eaten by talking seagulls? What's the
So
deal?
Jim, they cut a scene. That's actually Dave, the Dave fish. Dave's a racist. Dave's just
Dave-
a real shitbag. Dave's been posting a lot on 4chan lately, and so
they
by
ate
the
him.
time that scene happens, we're all just like, you know what, fuck Dave. And Flounders too is just like, it could have been me, but at least it was Dave.
Yeah, there was no reaction from Flounder at all. I'm like, that's weird. You at least maybe get a reaction from Flounder, like, oh my god, like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Nope, none of
it
that.
was bizarre. Like Flounder could have been like, "Oh my god, she's just ate a fish," and she could have been like, "Don't worry, kid, I'd never eat you," But
or something.
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, and then there's a song, as we all know, called "Under the Sea," that is really, all about the sea creatures in the ocean forming a musical ensemble and a band playing instruments and blah 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 blah. The eel plays the flute, or whatever. And in this quote unquote live action, I guess they couldn't have fish and sea creatures playing instruments, because that would break the the image, right, of live action, even though they had those same creatures dancing all over the screen. Like, I just don't understand that choice at all.
100%. I extremely disliked the Under the Sea thing. There is a line in that says, "We've got the hot crustacean band," and I'm like, show it to me.
right.
Show me the hot crustacean band.
Yeah.
I see no band
Instead
here. And it was in the animated movie, therefore it has to be here, but now we have to play under these new rules, right? I didn't like that at all. And what's funny is there is a spot in that line. There is one little moment that does look pretty fun, and it's like talking about the slugs cutting a rug, and then it shows some like snails that are doing this like little like line ballroom dance thing. And I'm like, that looks cool. That looks fun. Yeah. Give me the rest of it. Give me, and you know what? Let it be silly. Let it be stupid. Like, I think that's what's so fun about animation as a whole, is you're allowed to kind of put these. If you really think about it, like, all of the under the sea things are going to play music to convince Ariel how great it is to be under the water. That's kind of a silly, stupid concept, but it works because it's played out and it goes so over the top that it's fun. And when you peel back from it, you don't have that same element of fun.
I think part of the problem here, and we ran into this a little bit with The Lion King too, is that they made these creatures look realistic, right? So like, what would it look like to have a CGI carp playing a harp? A realistic carp. Like, that would look janky and shitty, and like it wouldn't make sense. And so they probably opted out of like having these CGI creatures playing instruments and just have them swim around and dance instead. but the lyrics
Right.
directly reference them playing instruments and doing specific things. And
Right.
I don't know, it
Yeah.
sucked a lot of the life out of that song
It's
for me.
dissonant.
Yeah.
It's very dissonant, and it does illustrate,
Ah.
pun intended, the problem with these CGI animated quote live action movies. Right? You really can't be live action if you want, especially if it's about a fantasy undersea world.
Mhm.
Like you just can't have the both.
Or and you swap up your animation style, right? Even a little bit,
Yeah.
even just a little bit. I mentioned that that was kind of you mentioned Lion King, like that was one of the problems with like Hakuna Matata, where they just because they just kind of have to walk towards the camera. But I think about another underwater movie where we got a hot crustacean band, sort of, in Aquaman. We got that cool octopus drummer in that, and that is a
Oh
more
wow.
live action animated movie, right? But they just let the animation be a little bit less realistic and a little like they just if you were playing with like an animation slider, they just slid it from 100% realistic down to like 95% and just
Mhm.
Yeah.
let them have a little bit more squish and pull and some of those things. And it was fun. A lot of people, when I think about Aquaman, that's one of the things I think about most. Like that was cool, that octopus
Mm.
drummer. So they could have done that here. What they would have had to have done is reconceptualize what it takes to be a live action um, Little Mermaid movie. But I think you could still do it and just make sure that that the animated parts feel a little bit more animated, so you can have some of that character
Mhm.
injected into it.
Right. I think Mike's comment, babe, if you want to put it up, exactly speaks to that point, Will. Maybe they should have done like a hybrid Mr. Limpet thing where some of it is live action, but some of it is very clearly like more cartoon animated, right? If you don't know what he's referring to, is a movie called, I think it's The Incredible Mr. Limpet. I don't know the exact title, but it's like from the 50s or 40s or something, and it's kind of like a mostly live action, but it's got an animated fish in it.
Yeah.
Kind of like a Roger Rabbit,
Roger
Mhm.
you know,
Rabbit,
kind of
or
thing.
like the
Yeah,
maybe kind of the inverse of like the penguins from like Mary Poppins, that sort of
Right.
thing.
Right. Yeah.
correct. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
For sure. What did you all think about the portrayal of Eric in this one? We talked earlier about how he got a song and how in the original he was kind of a cardboard cutout. Did they do enough to make him more of a fleshed out character here?
A little bit. He's still very milk toast and boring,
Mm.
if you ask me. Um, I just wish they had given him a little bit more. Uh, you know, I don't know, personality, like like sense of humor to kind of, make him more relatable. Um, Obviously, we get it. He's like a he's not a prince, right? Is he a prince? I
Yeah,
don't
he's a
know if he's a
prince.
prince or
Yeah.
not. He lives in a castle, but he seems very stuffed shirtish kind of still. I wish they had given him a little bit more that we could relate to.
Mm.
And he's very like, what's the word? Will it's like casting list, um, you know, type face that you see,
Yeah, I know what you're
pretty
like. Yeah,
boy, pretty boyish. Yeah.
Mm.
it's I think he did a good job. Like I think he did a good job with what was asked of him. I think that nothing against the actor at all. This was a better version of Eric than the animated movie. I think that's one of the things that again I think that and the sort of like the setting of the island that they're on are the two things that feel like an improvement over the animated. Um,
Mm.
that said, he is still like of the live action cast, the kind of the weakest in terms of like what he's allowed to do, and I think a lot of that is because there's just not a lot going on there. I think what I would have loved to have seen is maybe recontextualize that character. Give me someone who can play charming prince, sexy prince, but with a little bit of comedy mixed in too. And, for example, after seeing the Dungeons and Dragons movie, can you imagine if the prince was like Regé Jean Page?
Oh
Uh,
man. That would have
Wouldn't
been
that
amazing.
that would have
Oh,
been so fucking good.
yeah.
As
Or give him some flaws that the audience can relate to. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't think he was that flawed of a character. He just, he came under the spell of a beautiful mermaid. That's not really a flaw. Give him some insecurities, I guess. That the audience could relate to. That he wasn't so confident, and this relationship kind of gave him a boost. That would be
Yeah.
great.
So there's a lot that you can do there, but again, I think the problem you run into with that is the more you start to think about those types of things, the further you veer away from kind of what exists within the brand itself, and
Mhm.
that's not what they're looking to do here, right? So it kind of comes back to the kind of the original fatal flaw with what they're doing here. But again, the actor here and Jonah Howard King, I think, does a good job with the material that he's given. Right. What else has he been in? Just IMDbing him right now because I'm not really familiar with him, and honestly, even looking through his
Nothing
yeah,
jumps
nothing
out at
jumps
you.
out as something that nothing we've talked about on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Did y'all notice that the castle this time is not made of gold? It's not all sparkly. There is no penis tower, unfortunately.
I'm out.
It's like made of coral.
Half a star deduction. Half a star deduction.
It's funny. There was a comment earlier from Dave. Let me go ahead and put it up on the screen. He says, working at a video store in the 90s, my most disturbing effort was replacing all the video boxes with the castle dick with a much less interesting video cover. I think they were very careful here not to give us any coral dicks.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. It's a deduction.
I want to know if the publishing company made them inventory and return every Castle Dix, cover sleeve, so that none of them remained. You know what I mean? Out in the wild, because otherwise, you could make a pretty good killing off those.
I still have mine.
Now, if you had them. I think I still have one
Yeah.
too. I think we kept one.
I've got one
Yeah.
in storage back in Michigan. That's a long story. Don't ask me about it. But I have one too. I'm never giving that thing up.
Yeah.
All kinds of dicks and
Yeah,
stuff.
we're gonna keep our castle dicks until the end of time.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, another thing that I think that kind of works against the animation of this movie a little bit, kind of like we have to go more realistic, is that there were a couple of scenes, although not as many as I've seen in others, where it's a little murky underwater, right? And so it's a little hard to look, for me now, almost like the gold standard for how to shoot underwater shots is probably like Avatar 2, just in terms of like how you could still make things look vibrant and alive and, well animated, but also like very visible and easy to see in an underwater type setting. And I think this film mostly did a good job. I think mostly this does a good job, but there are a couple of spots where it does start to murk out just a little bit. It's more of a nitpick. We should talk about Kiss the Girl though, because I think that was from a song perspective, for me, it was, Poor Unfortunate Souls. I really liked Part of This World, and Kiss the Girl, I thought, were the songs that worked the best. They recontextualized Kiss the Girl here so that one of the things that the movie has seen criticism about in the past has been it's sort of a weird song when you think about kind of the concept of consent. The original one.
Oh yeah.
Don't say a word, not a single word, just kiss the girl. And
just kiss her.
And now they've rewrote that lyric to, I think, something that works pretty well. Use your words, boy, and ask her. It's a minor adjustment, but I think it fixes that problem. And let them just kind of move on with the rest of the song, which, again, David Diggs does most of the singing. We don't see as much of Sebastian in that scene, so I can distance the way that god-awful look of that character from the pretty damn good singing voice and really appreciate that song.
I gotta tell you.
It really does. Go ahead, babe.
I was just going to say the design of Sebastian is fucking creepy as hell, and I did not want to look at him when he was on screen.
Oh
but
my God.
I do like David Diggs a lot, and I did enjoy his performance.
Yeah, although his singing performance, isn't quite the same as God. Who was the? It was I got it right here. Sorry. Oh, Samuel Wright was Sebastian's
Yeah.
name in in the first one, and he's man. It's hard to top what he did in that one.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, like I said, Daveed Diggs is great. I love him, and finding someone to top Sam Wright in that first one had to be a really tough thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the song does incorporate in, and I think that they use them so sparingly here, it kind of works. But we also get Scuttle and Flounder singing because they're also helping. And I think contextually, it sort of solves the what do we do with all of our sidekicks for like a whole half of the movie problem. Like they get to sort of sing the kind of the embellishments on the chorus. So I thought that was a good use of those characters. The beginning of that sequence it starts to fall into some of those dull traps of just like, oh no, they're just gonna sing and just it's gonna just look like them sitting on a boat. But man, there's a certain part where like little blue fish start swirling, kind of water starts jumping up, and I'm like, this feels animated. This feels fun. This feels like I enjoy looking at this. And so I really liked, again, there are a couple of little minor issues there, but by and large, I really like that sequence.
Yeah, visually it reminded me a little bit of Life of Pi.
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of like the glow in the water and stuff, if you remember.
One thing I want to mention, and I know we're looking to wrap up here soon, but you just reminded me about the look of like the water and the visuals. How crazy that Avatar, as much as I didn't like the new Avatar, got the underwater stuff so fucking well done. But Disney, with all their crazy money, did such a poor job of like the underwater scenes. Like especially with Zaddy Triton, like there are scenes where he's underwater and like his body is going like this, but his beard is just like hanging just like it would like if it weren't wet. There's a scene where he's got his head out of the water and like his beard is kind of floating on top of the water. So I was like, okay, kudos for that. But like underwater,
that's a real shot.
Where was the money for the beard physics? Why didn't it look like I was looking through water at these characters?
I'd be interested in
the beard physics budget was cut. Sorry, babe.
I'd be interested in seeing more of the kind of like how they shot this stuff for this movie, because with Avatar they did a lot of tank work. Even though they CGI'd over a lot of it, they shot a lot of stuff in tanks so that they could actually get the water splashing on the actors. They could animate over. Whereas one that I know I can compare to on the other side is the Pinocchio remake. Not the Guillermo del Toro one that I really enjoyed, but the one with the Disney one with Tom Hanks. There are several shots in that where you could tell Tom Hanks was nowhere near water. Specifically like the whole like Monstro scene. There's spots where like when he gets like spit out of the water at the end, he's like bone dry on the side. So I say all of that. I wonder how much of and I know that Halle Bailey did some tank work. I know that there was some tank work here, but also some CGI over it. I wonder how much that applies to some of the other actors. Like I wonder if to that point, I wonder if they just kind of got Javier Bardem in for a couple of days to shoot his stuff, since most of it is him not moving a ton because he's got this whole fishtail. Like, how much of it was just like get him in front of the green screen, shoot it and go.
I'm guessing, because I don't know how they shot it, but I'm guessing any shots where they're partially or fully, like above the water, where it's a water scene, like with Trident's heads above the water, or when Ariel's on the rock, those are obviously tank shots done in water. They don't need to animate those. The only making of thing I really am interested in is the one scene at the end of Part of Your World where she's up on the rock and the wave hits from behind at just the right time and like crescendos over her, right at the end of the song. How did they do that? Like they must have had a water cannon or something to shoot it out.
Oh boy! All right,
but I mean, look, we talked about this. Maybe has a will appeal maybe to like a younger audience and kids will like it. But I also like that that I think it's going to appeal to a more diverse audience, right? and we saw that at our screening, which was awesome. So I think all the better for this movie.
Yeah.
I think it's does it in my mind does it come close to standing up to the original? No, but that's okay. It doesn't have to. It's fine. It's fine on its own. It's a fine piece of entertainment.
As far as these movies go, it's, dare I say, maybe a step in the right direction, but I don't know if it's enough to like really make me excited about this experiment that they're doing with this live action remake.
Get ready for more, because this thing probably made
Oh yeah.
a bunch of money.
All of these,
so there'll be
all of these make movie money at this point. We're gonna start getting like, we're gonna get plenty more. So I know that every probably every 6 to 8 months we're gonna be doing one of these reviews, and you can almost probably tape my intro and replay it. but I hope to be proven wrong. I hope
there should be a list of Disney animated classics that have yet to be made live action.
I'm looking at it.
That we're totally not wanting to.
I'm looking at the list right now. So we've got Snow White coming out March of next year.
That could be good, actually.
We've got Lilo and Stitch coming out in May of next year.
Not excited for that. That works because of the animation. I mean, it works for the story too, but that works best because of the animation. But
but if they have big chubby dudes in it, I could look the other way.
And honestly, Stitch is not real. He's not a real animal, so maybe they can make him more animated looking. Maybe that's the fix. Like
maybe
it'll be like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Maybe. Yeah. There's also a Moana live action that's in development, and a Mufasa prequel movie coming from Jon Favreau. So that's what's coming down the pipeline over the next 2 or 3 years.
I'm coming around, like, of that list, as much as I initially balked, I'm coming around on Lilo and Stitch, like, because I think it has the one that has the best chance of fixing my one big problem with these. So we'll see if that's the case. But
yeah.
And we've already got Lin-Manuel Miranda as part of Moana, so it'll fit. It'll work perfectly, like dovetail right in.
Well, to be fair, if they have to tap him for a new song, at least it'll fit within the theme,
right? Yeah. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, I think that wraps up our discussion of The Little Mermaid. As always, Jim, Will, I really love talking about films with you guys. I've missed it the last couple weeks, so it's good to be back in the saddle. Coming up next week, we've got Into the Spider-Verse. Don't forget to check that out this weekend. Although, one thing I will say, we just saw it today. Don't forget that it is part 1. It is a 2-part thing. So if you're like
kind of like Fast X,
if you're getting to like the end of the 2.5 hours and you're like, why the fuck aren't things wrapping up? It's because it's a 2-parter. So just be aware of that before you go see the movie this weekend. And then we'll see you all next week for our review of Across the Spider-Verse. Love you too, Mike Lovins. He says, have a good night. So good to see you, Mike. As always, Dave, you two, and everybody else in the chat. Folks who are hanging out with us that didn't say hi, don't be shy. It's okay. We don't bite unless you want us to, and we have your consent. But looking forward to chatting with you all next week. Just in case people want to talk, though, between now and then, Jim, where can people interface with you online?
Yeah, guys, thanks for making this show so much fun, you folks that are commenting. But you can find me on Twitter. Please, direct message me on Twitter. Comment on some of my posts, whatever, my tweets, because my Twitter is way too political right now. I need something else. So find me on Twitter at JJPOutWest. That's my Twitter handle. And you can find me on Facebook under my name, Jim Pugliafico.
You also have a letterbox, Jim, that you did not.
I do have a letterbox.
You did not rate Little Mermaid on yet. I went to look.
I know.
Star rating, Jim, right now.
What is it?
It's
hurry up.
2.5.
Okay.
2.5. Okay.
Yeah. Out of 5. That's it's in the middle.
That's what I rated it too, I think.
That's probably kind of where I would fit it too. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 2.5. Yeah. All right, cool.
I almost went 3, but no.
And Will, how about you? Where can folks find you?
Listen, so honestly, don't look for me on Twitter. I'm still there, but honestly, I'm just like occasionally posting
Twitter's
like the occasional like comic book related thing, just because like Twitter is a garbage fire for me right now. But honestly, look for me on Facebook. That's the social media platform that I, as an old, still use. So come find me there. I'm William Lindis. Just search for me there and give me an ad. Send me a message first so I know who you are. Letterboxd, still doing stuff there. Look for William Lindis, or Fundamental is the tag there. And you can also find me over on TikTok. I'm mostly just liking things these days. I post the occasional thing. I'm at the Movie Bear. So come find me on socials and come say hi.
Perfect. All right. And you can find me on Facebook. Just look for Brad Harris. I'm the one who likely has Chub, Chaser, Bear, friends, etc. Send me a message, though, just so I know you're not a clever bot flashing a hairy chest to get my eye and make me fall for your friend request. You can also find me on Twitter at iBradPro, as well as on Letterboxd, where, knock on wood, I have, sorry, Kira, I just freaked her the hell out, where I have logged everything I have seen this year, which is a pretty monumental thing for me. Usually I start in January, and by like February, I peter out, but it's fucking June, so I'm doing pretty good.
Thanks for the encouragement and not letting me peter out. I'm going to get back on it.
It's Pride Month, so it's all about the Peters. So just
Right.
be aware,
Yeah.
I'll peter it out.
Take care of the Peters, Jim.
Yeah.
You gotta.
Well, I take care of at least one Peter. Pretty well.
Maybe two. Anyway, y'all, happy Pride Month, by the way. Today is the first official day of June, which means it is Pride Month officially here. Hope you enjoy. I know there's some celebrations happening this weekend. A lot of folks are going to Tidal Wave right now. Safe travels, have fun, and we'll see you all next time. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye, and Chiloli Imefossi.
Bye-bye.